In this video, we're going to do 1.3.4, the screwdriver case base. And so I'm going to start a 2D sketch, and I'm going to work on the XZ plane. I'm going to go to polygon, grab my polygon. I want a pentagon, so that's good. And I want it to be inscribed. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to pull up and place my top point there, and I'm going to finish that sketch. Do I want to finish it? I'm not going to finish the sketch, so hold on. So let me go back and edit the sketch because I want to dimensionalize it a little bit. So let's make a dimension from here to here, and let's make that 2.0. Okay. All right, so I'm happy with that. So that looks fine. So let me just move this over, and then let's follow the directions. So I was at 16A. So they say create the pentagon and then extrude it with a tapered extrusion. Okay, so that'll be new for us. So let's extrude this. I'm going to extrude it. It's going to go up. And let's see, why don't I just have to eyeball this. Let's go maybe 0.5. What does that look like? Okay, 0.5 looks good, but I didn't want to finish it yet, so I'm going to edit that feature again. 0.5, but now you want to have a taper, and they want it to have a taper of -45 degrees. So if your advanced properties are not open these advanced properties, and you can see that's where taper lives. So I want an angle that's going to be -45 degrees. Okay, that looks nice. So that looks about what they have. All right, very good. So we have that. Then it says create another inward tapered extrusion from the top surface of the first extrusion using a taper angle estimate approximate for the injection molding. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to build a new sketch on top. So if I want to do that, can I why don't I project the geometry, and I'm going to project the pentagon that's inside. Okay, so I projected that geometry. Let me finish the sketch. Let me now extrude this piece, and how it looks like it's a little bit higher. So I did 0.5 last time. So I'm going to go maybe 1 this time. Oh, sorry, that was 0.1. I definitely at 1.1. Let's look at 1. That looks about right. Okay, so now what am I going to do? I'm going to do the taper angle. And I think I'm going to do it the same way. So let's taper that the same way. So the last taper I did was -45 degrees. So how does that look? Not great. So I don't particularly like that. So let's go back and let's see what they want us to do. So why don't I not taper that? Let me just bring this straight up. So I'm going to extrude this, and let me just go like that and say okay. Now I'm going to look at my sketch again and figure out another. Okay, so playing around with this tapered angle, I decided to use a tapered angle of -10 degrees because that tapers it in kind of nicely. So I'm going to say okay, and that looks like what they have, a little bit more so than what I had previously. In fact, I could even be a little bit taller. So maybe we'll go a little bit taller. So let me go back to this extrusion, say edit feature, and instead of going 1 inches, maybe I will go like 1.5. How does that look? With the same tapered angle. Okay, I like that. That looks good. Okay, so we're going to work on a loft feature next. To do this loft feature, we're going to do a new sketch here. So here's new sketch. Okay, so on this new sketch, what I'm going to do is I'm going to first project the geometry. So I'm projecting the geometry of the pentagon. Okay, so then I want the center of that pentagon. So it's not quite the, well, let's see if that is the center. So let me turn on construction line, turn on line, and I'm going to go from here to here, from here to here. Okay, and from here, oh yeah, if I go to the middle, okay, so let's say that that was the center. So let me escape there. So I'm going to try to do the circle right here and see if this looks reasonable. So that looks kind of nice. So there's my circle. I'm going to make it, why don't I make it, I don't know, point, maybe, that's fine. Whatever that was fine. Okay, so I have my circle now. Now I'm going to create a loft feature between the pentagonal top surface and the circle of the new plane. Okay, so I think I've messed up a little bit. So let me go back for a second. Let me go back. I'm going to go back even more. Okay, so let me turn it this way. So let me just see if I'm on that sketch. So I'm going to even go back one more and get out of the sketch. Okay, so let's do this. Let me go here, and I'm going to put a work plane on there. So I'm going to go to plane. I want to do an offset plane. So here's where the plane is going to be. So let me offset it maybe 0.3. Okay, so it's 0.3 above. Does that sound about right? Let's see how far they're telling us. We're just going to kind of eyeball it looks like. Okay, so let me try 0.3 and exit there. So that's nice. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a new sketch on this work plane. New sketch. And I'm going to project the geometry. So project the geometry here, 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 and here. Okay, and I've done that. Now let me get my circle, and I'm going to put the circle in the center and bring it out like that. And then I'm going to say okay. So let's finish that sketch. And if you look, so if you look a little bit, you see how that's kind of above? So that's very nice. So it's nice and above, and it's all set. So now I'm going to try to do a loft feature. So I would like to loft from, well, I'm going to rotate this a little bit. So let me turn off loft first so I can rotate it so I can see what I'm doing. So here's my little rotate. Okay. So I want to loft it from the base. There we go. I just want the base of the pentagon. So you've got to kind of come in. And there it is. I want that. And then I want just the circle. So I'm not getting just the circle. So I don't know if that did it. Okay, I'm going to say click to add. Can I get the circle to light up by itself? No. Okay, so I'm going to have to play around with that because I don't think that's going to do it. Okay, so I'm going to go back and play around with this a little bit. Okay, so I had to go back and do something. So I went back in and I edited this sketch right here. So I edited the sketch, and I turned the pentagon, this pentagon right here, into construction lines by turning on construction line and then going around and going to each one and turning these inside ones into construction lines. So go ahead and do that. Then you can finish the sketch again. Then what I did, I went to Loft, but first I kind of moved this around a little bit so I can see it. So I have these little turn things turned on. See these little handles? Okay, so now I'm going to go to Loft, and I want to loft this entire base, and I had to play around for a long time. There it is. Okay, so that's the blue. That's going to be lofted. I'm going to click to add, and I'm going to add the circle, and I'm going to loft between the two. Okay, so what you're seeing is lofting up, and watch what happens. If I say okay, then you can look and see what this has turned into. So let me go back to my home view, and then I'll grab this so you can kind of see. So let me turn that on again and grab the handles, and you can see how that's lofted between the two features. All right, so then they want us to do something else. They want us to extrude one more time. So I'm going to escape out of that. I'm going to say new sketch, and I'm going to rotate it so I can see, and I don't think it grabbed the right thing. So let me just get out of that and say, let me just get out of that. So let me get out of here, and let me delete this sketch. Okay, so delete that sketch. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to extrude this. So can I extrude? Let me just see if I can. Would it let me extrude this? No. So I have to first sketch it. So go ahead and project the geometry. This time project the geometry of that circle. So I've projected the geometry, I've finished the sketch. Now you can extrude it. Okay, so how far up do I want to go? So again, they're not giving us any measurements. We're just going to eyeball that. So that went up an inch. And do I want any kind of tapered angle? Maybe a little bit of a tapered angle. How about, I don't know, let's say -5. What does that look like? Yeah, I'm happy with that. Okay, so I'm going to say okay for that. So now, notice that work plane. That work plane's not really helping me. So I'm going to turn off the visibility of that. So how you do that is you go into work plane, I right click, and I turn off the visibility. Okay, so now this looks more like what I want to have. Okay, so I have this nice little shape. What does the front look like? Okay, that's my front. Okay, so add a small round to the top edge of the cylindrical extrusion. So I think I'm okay with what I've done so far. Okay, next thing, let's look at the shell feature. So this is kind of neat, and we haven't done this yet. So turn this little guy over and go to shell, which is right here, and I'm going to grab this face. So look what happens when we remove the face. So if you can grab the orbital and look, and you can see that now I can see right inside the base. Now this is what they use to make these parts a little bit lighter. So it's a very, very great tool to in manufacturing to make the weight less. It's easier to ship it. It costs less money. All right. We're not quite ready to do this shell feature yet, but I want you to see what it looked like if I shelled it right now. Okay, so that's what it would look like. So I'm going to cancel this, and I have my bottom back on. Now the reason why I'm going to cancel it is because I'm going to do other things. So the next thing they want us to do is, let's see, add a short, I'm on 21, add a short tapered extrusion to the bottom of the solid model to approximate the small, almost vertical edge of the physical case. Okay, so I need a little extrusion down there as well. So let's play with this. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to turn this over a little bit, and I want to do a new sketch. So right click on the bottom, say new sketch, and now what I'm going to do is project the geometry of the pentagon. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Make sure they all turn yellow. So they're all good. Okay, so finish that sketch. And now I'm going to extrude the bottom. Okay, let me go back and do that again because I don't think it took all of them. So let me cancel this. And I'm going to go back to edit that sketch. And sure enough, you see how one of them is missing? So project the geometry of that last little piece. There we go. Okay, now finish the sketch. Now go to extrude. Grab the extrusion. Okay, I'm going to go down. I'm thinking 0.2 is going to be about right. And let's maybe go at a -5-degree taper. And then let's see what that looks like. Say, okay. I'm going to go back to my view, and that looks pretty good. Okay, so one thing I just noticed, they wanted that to flare out. So I'm going to edit this feature again, and let's change this to 3 degrees in the positive direction. And we'll see what that looks like. Okay, well that's what they wanted, so I'm okay with that. Okay, so now that base is flaring out. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to model the center hole at the top of the base part. So we're going to approximate the hole's diameter and depth. The center hole is a blind hole, so that means we're going to do a new sketch on top. I'm going to put a center hole right here. So let me put I think what I'll do is I'll put a point. There's my point. I could even, that's in the center. I'm going to make my circle. I didn't really need a point then. So let's see what that should look like. That should be, how about 0.5? 0.5 seems good. Okay, so that's my circle. Finished my sketch. I'm going to now extrude this. And I want to extrude just this piece. I'm going down though, so I'm going to change the direction. Okay, so the bottom of the wall around the center hole extends almost to the bottom edge of the hexagonal form. Okay, and they want a 2-degree taper. Okay, so I want to extend it down. So let me see if I can change this. What if I went to 0.5? So I didn't want to hit enter, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to edit that extrusion, edit feature. Okay, so I think I need it more. So let's go maybe, what if I said 2.5? Where would that take us? Okay, so they wanted to extend almost to the bottom edge of the hexagonal form. So how about just 2? Okay, that looks good. Now they want to have a taper because they don't want to have whatever they put in pop out. So our degree here is going to be 2. So say okay. And then what I'm going to notice is if I were to turn this around, do that again, I have a hole going down. It's going at an angle, so it's not going straight down. All right, so that piece is done. So now, and hopefully it's not too wide a hole. If it is, we can adjust it in a second. So then it says use the pattern tool in CAD to create the smaller holes centered on the center of the top circular center. Okay, so I'm going to do another sketch. I'm going to right click here and say new sketch. And I'm going to use the circular pattern. And I'm going to okay, so I think I first wanted, before I use the pattern, let's do this. Let me cancel out of this. I want to put another hole. So I'm going to put a little circle. And maybe I'll put it, I don't know, say right. Maybe what I'll do is I'll draw a circle on there first. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say circle. I'm going to do a construction line. And let me see where I want it. There. How about right about there? Okay, that's a construction line circle. So I'm happy with that. Now, since I have that as a guide, let me put another circle, turn off construction, put a circle, maybe right here, and how big can that be? That's going to be kind of little. Okay, so let's do this. Let me escape out of that. Let me go back another piece. Let me put a circle, construction line, circle. Let me make this a little bit smaller. So how about like that? Okay, that's good. Turn off construction line. My circle's still on. I'm going to put a circle right there, and I'm going to make it about, I don't know, that big, say. Okay, so now I'm happy with that, and oh, shucks, that still has construction lines. So let me get back out of that, turn off construction line, make sure it's off, go to circle, have your center here, come out a little bit. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm going to say okay. All right, now I'm going to take my circular pattern, and the geometry is this circle. The center is here, and I want how many of them? Okay, here, let me tell it the axis is here. There it is. Okay, and they want how many? I think it's just 5. Let me just look at the settings again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Change this to 5, and then say okay. All right, so that looks pretty good. So why don't I finish that sketch? Now I'm going to extrude these guys. So I'm going to extrude them. Let's see how far down. I'm going to select the profiles, which are going to be these. I'm going to select them all. And we know they're going the wrong way, but I'll fix that in just a second. Let me move this out of the way. Okay, escape that. And can I grab this other hole? Can I move this out of the way? Okay. So I can't seem to grab that. Okay, so let me cancel that again, and let me start at that one. So I want to extrude. Oh, that's much better. Start at this one. All right, now that's better because that little thing was in the way. Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 successfully this time. Okay, so I'm going to switch the direction. Now, what if I went down 1? So I would say that's probably okay. And let's do a little taper. So we'll do a 3-degree taper. Okay, do I want to do a negative 3-degree taper? Well, let me just do a 3-degree taper. Okay, so I've tapered that hole. All right, so that's all good. So now they want us to talk about shelling it again. So you've got to turn this over a little bit so you can see what you're going to shell. So I'm going to shell. I want to shell here. And now look what happens this time. So as I rotate this, you can see that you can see the other pieces. So if I shelled it before, I would not be able to have closed cylinders up there. They would all be open. So, and I think I like the thickness. I'm kind of okay with that thickness. So that's all good. So I'm going to say, okay. So that's shelled now. Now let me go back up here, and I'm going to go up to the top again, And I'm going to say new sketch. Okay, so did it do it? Okay, let's cancel that. I don't think it did. So let me come here. I want the whole top. And I want to say new sketch. Doesn't seem to be responding, which is odd. Okay, so let me see if I can write on this top. But I'm not in sketch. So it didn't do that. So let me try this one more time. Okay. New sketch. Okay, so I'm going to play with this for a sec. Okay, so I don't know why it was being so persnickety, but it finally did do the new sketch for me. So they're having a sketch on top, and we're going to put some text there. So let's see if this is even going to work. I'm going to try to put the text right here. And I'm going to say my name. Okay, and I may go to a different size. And let me say okay. All right, so that seemed okay. So I'm going to finish that sketch. I'm now going to extrude. And this is new for us. We're going to extrude, and we're going to extrude the letters in my name. I want it to go up, but I think I just want it to go up, say, 0.2. Okay, that looks good. So I'm going to say okay. So if I look at this from the top, there's my name. So I think 0.2 is even a little bit too much. So let's go back and let's edit that extrusion. You edit the extrusion isn't editing a feature. So let's make it go up PowerPoint about 0.05 and say okay. So I can still see it there. Let's see if I can see it there. Yes, it's a little bit raised, so I like that. Okay, so I'm getting tired of this gray color. So I want you to pick a color that you like, and let's make this look prettier. So what does cream look like? Cream's okay. So I'm going to play around a little bit with my color. So, that's a little bit too dark. Black is hard to deal with. So indoor pool? Ooh, bad idea. Okay, how about a light red? Lovely. Okay, so I'm very happy with that. So save that as your screwdriver case base, and it was 1.3.4. Well done.